All right, so I guess we should kick it off. So my proposition, and it's been endorsed by Steve and my manager Zay, obviously want to get everybody else's input, is replacing our current monolithic partner repository, which is on archive.canonical.com, with our new mechanism for distributing paid apps via PPAs and private PPAs.
The first question that came to mind is are the paid PPAs already sufficient for your needs, or would more extensions to those?
There's one bug currently open where we can't have $0 items, so like Flash and things like that are freely distributable, not free software, but freely distributable. That will be fixed by the end of next week, and so far as we can tell, once that's done, yes, that will be sufficient as is.
So is this a question of not using partner anymore?
Not using partner and defining our QA process at this point, which is not really defined for paid apps very well at all in general, so consolidating our QA process. And we still want, Steve made it very clear, and I agree with him, we want categorization still in place, not partner or paid, but like server client type categorization, so that they don't see Open Bravo with Flash, for instance. So that change would need to be made, some sort of categorization mechanism in the client that we could use from the console.
So it's not quite there. I mean, the pay apps are really designed for pay apps. They live in private PPAs.
Mm-hmm.
They need to get a token first. So in order to make it available for non-for-pay apps, we would have to have normal PPAs and.
Well, not necessarily. To have it available for people who aren't logged in, you would have to have normal PPAs. But if you could set a $0 price tag, and then once they download it the first time, they can always get it once they're logged in.
Right. I mean, but there is no reason to put the application behind a...
No, I understand there's no reason. I'm simply saying he was asking if it was already there. And right now, if we were to use what we have now, we'd have to use private PPAs even for the freely distributable stuff and just put a $0 price tag on it. Because from talking to the online services guys, we can't use non-private PPAs right now, period. Like, it won't work with their systems.
Right. But I mean, then we need to fix the system to work with.
We can. I mean, if that's what you want to do, but I don't see why it's absolutely strictly necessary for Natty.
Well, I mean,
the user doesn't really know except for the fact that he has to log in. There is that one impediment that there wasn't before with partner.
Right.
Correct. But we've already agreed to not require any information. So, I mean, if it's a $0 app, they don't have to enter any information other than logging in with their Ubuntu single sign-on.
It just sounds wrong to me to have this, go through all the process of creating a token, creating a subscription, creating all this stuff for something that you can download anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
Well, I understand that. If you want to go down that and do that work, that's fine. I'm simply saying that with no work, we can use the system we already have.
So we have something that works now. That is not ideal. We have something that could work now, which is even less ideal. Like, why would we want to make the switch? We should get to a point where, even if it's a little bit of effort to get something that is better than what we had before.
Well, it's not less ideal from the approach we're looking at it. They're wanting to create a developer portal whereby people can manage these things somewhat themselves.
Right.
So they'll be able to change their own description, change their own screenshots, change their own price if they have one. So that's why we want to use this mechanism.
Right. But this implies
so
work.
It's not really less ideal than partner.
This implies quite a bit of work to make this happen. And if we have to do this work anyway, then we should as well, do the additional work to.
Somebody else has already taken notes. Thank you.
Do the additional work to make it work with non-private PPAs.
There's a question I received there. Connie asks, could someone explain why the price tag is a factor to the partner even?
To the partner. Let me hop on. What channel are we on here? Sorry, I forgot to join that.
They're probably listening to the stream, so you can probably just talk.
That's a good point. Let me read the question. Can someone explain why the price tag is effective for the partner repo? It does not for the partner repo. But when we switch over to this new system, as he was simply saying, as Michael was saying now, we have to associate a price tag right now, even if it's a $0 price tag. Right now, a $0 price tag won't even work, but as of next week it will. The online services guys have added that to their list of things to do. Now, the partner repository, if all goes well, will go away, so, as we know it.
So what will happen at the life cycle? Like, so when a release goes obsolete and so forth, what's going to happen at the package in the
The same thing that will happen to the paid apps now, they'll need to be migrated ahead of time. Our current policy is to do it around the beta period, beta 1 period for Ubuntu releases. So the same thing will take place.
Another question?
Yes, the new system is just a conglomeration of PPAs that will show up just like they do now, just not under a partner tag. It will be under either client software or server software. We want that to be our differentiator, not paid versus partner.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, how can they be tagged so that we know if the package becomes obsolete, i.e. there's no, like say, a package would maybe associated with a specific release, and it's been tested and working on that release. If that release becomes obsolete through the life cycle, how does the information get flagged in there so we know which packages get pulled out?
I'm not sure I understand what she's asking. Do you get what she's asking?
I think you're asking
And
for.
like,
Yeah, because you've got to support all the other releases and else.
yeah, so there's ones that are around, but there's various versions of probably 4 specific releases. And how do you yank out the ones that don't work anymore?
For still supported releases, how do we go
No,
back?
for the unsupported releases, so if a release goes unsupported, and there's a package sitting in that private package.
We'll
how do
probably take the same possibility now, and once the release is unsupported, just yank them all. So,
But how are we tracking them to know and so forth?
tracking individual packages, we don't now, is the answer to that, we don't.
So PPA repositories drop unsupported releases anyway, don't
Do they drop the actual dev file, they just don't let you?
No,
upload
it
it?
doesn't stop
You
publishing.
don't get any bills.
I think
Associated with Johnny, for instance.
what I mean is, I think it'll happen automatically once John T's marks obsolete. I think that
Well, no, it
PPAs
doesn't
are-
automatically unpublish, it
Yeah.
just doesn't let you upload a new version.
Would we need to change that?
I don't know that we necessarily want to, but if somebody's paid for an item, for example, do we
Yeah,
really want to
but
cut them off?
Well, no, but it doesn't cut them off. They just don't get upgrades. It's still installed.
Oh, well,
on
that's
the
gonna
machine.
happen by default, yeah.
So
We won't be publishing any new versions for
Yeah,
unsupported releases.
that's my concern.
Okay.
So is the comment, it would persist, it sounds like?
The old version, as the system stands now, would persist, but it would receive no new updates once John T. or whatever reaches
Yeah,
the
but
end of
you-
life.
Can you stop somebody from installing an unsupported release that
Right.
is still up there?
No, I don't think we necessarily want to either. But if they're happy with John T, even though it's in an unsupported state, they paid for a DVD player, why yank it from them? Yeah.
Well, they've
I don't see the logic.
already pulled it down.
Yeah, if they haven't paid for the DVD player yet.
By the time that the release becomes unsupported.
Oh, okay, I get what she's saying now. Sorry, light bulb came on. So you want to be able to yank it from purchase for those that are using unsupported release? Yeah, that would be more on the online services team. I don't have a good answer for that. They would need to disable the purchase mechanism at that point, because I don't think there's any way we could easily do that at the PPA level, is there?
No.
No.
Yeah, that would be an online services thing, which is a good point. We need to put that in the notes. Yes, you should not be able to purchase for unsupported releases. We still have that problem now with partner though. That's not really a new problem. Stuff still lays around in partner and unsupported releases anyway. So.
We started talking about this purchasing and software centre. What about the server side, for example? I don't know. We've got this zero price tag associated with stuff, and like things like Sun Java, for example.
Well, that's what Mike was bringing up. We need to be able to use non-private PPAs, which would solve that problem.
Yeah.
Well, what about the client UI? Would you, is ADAPT repository sufficient for enabling things?
It shouldn't really matter, should it?
Well, for usage of apt-get, they wouldn't be listed in the default sources
You
list.
make a point there, yeah, for server type,
You'll
yeah.
have to find them.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, we would have to have a client tool where you can basically say,
List them all.
query software center
Yeah.
agent and tell me what is available on the command line, and then having a mechanism like adapt repository or a new tool that can take the necessary steps.
So in that case, it sounds like there's 2 extra work items here, client-side work items. There's one of them is adding effectively a server implementation of Software Center or server front-end for Software Center, perhaps partial.
Right.
And another seems to be perhaps figuring out how we can make these easier for people to select PPAs at installation time, which you can't do right now, but it's a multi-step thing for preceding. So
There's also an additional step that we need to make Software Center actually understand that stuff that is coming from Software Center agent is not necessarily for pay stuff. Currently it assumes everything that is.
Correct. That's why I brought up we need two categories essentially.
So the Software Center doesn't currently support public PPAs, is that right?
It does support them. You just need to add them first.
There's no discovery mechanism, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. There's no discovery.
Correct. The paid apps discovery mechanism is strictly for commercial PPAs.
So there's an intermediate step that we could take. There is a discovery mechanism where if you have a package like App Install Data Partner, for example, if that package contains information about the PPA and trusted keys.
I don't know if we're going back to a static package again.
This is what we support now. I mean, like we can make it all dynamic, but then we need to do work basically. Like this is what we have. This is where we want to go to.
And one thing we also need to take into account, so somebody mentioned Java. So for instance, I launched Open Bravo through this new mechanism, and it depends on Java, which is also in a PPA. How is our PPA dependency handling, Michael, if I need to depend on another PPA? Is that there yet?
No.
well, you could also just copy things between PPAs.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the PPAs themselves could be set up to depend between each other. So
Would that be
That
handled
doesn't-
automatically by the client?
But
you
that,
could make the client or the Software Center set that up. It could examine the
They
dependencies.
actually understand this already. I mean, there's code in Adapter Posture. I'm not actually sure if it works, but if I remember correctly, it tries to figure it out.
But that may be problematic if the PPA dependencies later change.
Yeah,
But
that's a good point.
I think they could just copy.
Okay,
Probably
yeah,
would suffice for now.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a fairly rare case. Most of them are kind of leaf applications. They don't depend on much.
they just tend to be self-contained in the
Most
individual case?
commercial type apps do. Yeah, they bundle. It's crap. They bundle a bunch of crap together and call it an app.
So,
I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just saying that's their QA release cycle. They bundle all their own libraries. It's pretty bad from our point of view. It's sane from their point of view. So it's rarely that it happens. Java is an example where it's going to happen a few times. Open Bravo, Alfresco depend on it. But most of them just depend on a few libraries out of main, and that's it.
If you do that, then you'll have to commit to whenever some Java 6 comes out.
Copy each one,
you have to
correct,
copy
yeah.
those all over.
Which I would be fine living with that nuisance, then if that's the only reason keeping us from eliminating partner, I'm perfectly fine with that.
You can script that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's easy enough.
It's
it does
doable
sound,
by the API.
What's that?
It's doable via the API. You can just write a script.
Yeah.
have you talked to ISD people? Because I mean, there are some work items in here for ISD and the Software Center agent,
Yes, I have.
but they didn't come, or are they just happy with doing the work?
No, they didn't show because Steve was going to kind of come and move them, and then he got pulled off by Jane. So yeah.
They said Steve K would do it all.
No, actually.
Talk to
Yeah,
Drew.
didn't they actually? No.
One question I had about this approach, do the commercial PPAs allow for counting how many times something is
That would
built?
be a Julian question here.
Yes, because it's a PPA. We already have support to pull out how many things, certain things have been downloaded.
Not yet, we don't.
We do for public, don't
Make sure we didn't get any questions.
we? When you approve it.
Yeah, it doesn't work out.
Oh, right.
The Lotus tried to run it yesterday and it nearly blew up the PPA machine.
There's
Because I've been following that whole thread. Y'all are trying to do it.
Yeah.
It's in for a while.
So what was the answer to that one, this question?
The answer to the question is the support is there, it needs fixing.
But for purposes of this discussion, we could assume that the answer is yes.
It's something we can do.
Yeah.
In 90 time frame now? Because I know you guys get
When he
crash
finishes
music.
exams.
I mean, the code to do it is largely written. There's a bug where it uses up gobs of memory and makes the machine fall over. So,
Does it also look at private PPAs?
no.
Yeah.
Well, it could do,
It
but
could, yeah.
they're served from a completely different box. So,
Private PPAs are served from
I didn't know that
will we run into any scalability issues?
Sorry, different area, direction area. Sorry.
Will we run into any scalability issues if we use PPAs instead of archives.canonical.com?
Potentially, yes. We're starting to see quite an increased load on the PPA machine now because it's all done on one box.
Why don't we throw Flash on there?
So,
And a WA and reader.
I mean, I'm sure IS can mirror busy PPAs anyway, but
Right.
the biggest problem is the publishing cycle. That's, in the last year, it's gone from taking a couple of minutes to about 15 minutes,
Okay.
and it's only going to go up, so that's something we need to address.
So we need to address it, but it's not a big deal.
Nothing to be too concerned about at the moment, but yeah, once we start hammering
Flash will bring anything to its knees, so.
in many ways.
But the two things I want to bring up before I forget is going back to categorization. We need some way, Michael, to create categories. I don't know what you call them, but the top level nodes, you know, that represent a PPA, partner repository, paid apps. We need a way within paid apps to create top level nodes like server, client. You know, they may change them later, so we need some mechanism to change those names and add or remove top level nodes and make it easy in that console that we use to publish these apps to just select the category and have it published there. That and the Big Daddy, which is the QA process. Currently for partner, you know, we've gone up and down with different QA processes over the years. I'm sure Steve V is getting nervous back here now. But he was great in the past, and we had him doing QA, and then we decided we'll just have Dustin Kirkland take over the final vetting of server apps, and Jonathan Riddell will take over the final vetting of desktop apps. Do we want to keep that the same? If we,
If you're looking at PPA, you don't get that anymore.
well, I mean, you can still. I mean, before we add it live to the client. I mean,
Right.
The location is kind of irrelevant from our point of
Yeah,
view.
you can have a staging.
Correct.
Yeah.
You don't even necessarily, yeah, you'd have a staging
You're
PPA.
staging
you
private
can copy out,
PPA, and you just have people.
which is what we're currently doing now.
Right.
So, do we want to keep that process where it's just one of our two archive admins that handle it, depending on what?
Well, archive admins wouldn't be in the loop anymore.
Yeah.
If you, which actually I think is probably a good thing. It's a bottleneck to this team. It's difficult to allocate resources really, and to balance the allocation of resources between the partner and the Ubuntu archive and so on. There's nothing to say that some of the same people can't be involved, but I think it would be, it would go through some other group.
Yeah, I was thinking like the extra stuff, we'd create a group of canonical people, form a team, and then define X number of thumbs up needed to pass it through from that team. So Michael's looked at it, Dustin's looked at it, it's fine, push it through. Something along those lines. I nominate Michael to lead the team. But no, seriously, we should think about, and that's probably a discussion better served for tomorrow in the commercial PPA discussion. But we do need to form some form of QA.
I think
Because right now it's been kind of ad hoc. We've done it, it's just been ad hoc. You know, we try to grab people like Steve and people off his team. And
I think we
it's
need
just not workable.
a two-step QA basically. One first step is review, obviously, and the second step is having somebody from the QA team actually install it and run it. And if that both works well, then push it out.
I tend to agree. I just hope we get enough people in the team so that, like he said, it doesn't become a bottleneck again where everybody's busy and an app waits for a week just to get tested. So we need to get a bunch of people from Canonical, in my opinion, on that team and keep the requirement for how many people needed to review it and hack it. So like if one archive admin says the package looks good and one QA guy says the package looks good, let's push it out. Something along those lines.
But it's still going to be a manual push.
Yes,
Like
yeah, that would be me then going into the
Pushing the
console
button.
manually. And what's great about this mechanism is we can unpublish it like that too. You just turn it off in the console. So I had to do that yesterday when we found out the hard way we didn't support $0 items. And everybody's trying to buy, and it's like, you cannot buy, cannot buy. Yeah, that's really all I had. Anybody have any questions, complaints, comments? Anybody really sad to see the partner repository die? I'm certainly not.
I'd like to kill it
I've
with
been more
fire.
involved with it. Yes, I've been more involved with it than anybody. I'm not sad to see it go.
We will still need to keep it there for prior releases.
Correct. Right. Absolutely.
We'll
Yeah.
just stop publishing it.
Things up bit by bit until it all disappears and it's gone.
Yeah.
Just,
Which will be.
I mean, it won't get updated.
Life stuff now, actually.
Lucid's life cycle.
I'm pretty sure
Right.
I still have at least one release, Dapper, which had the previous model for partner.
Oh, really?
So,
so basically, once
Things
all
die
of the
slowly.
Yeah, very slow.
bunch of releases that have partner packages in them have all gone end of life, then we can delete the code.
Okay. Unfortunately, that's
uploading
4
it.
years from now with Lucid,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And what about the server, which is supported longer?
I think I'm using server time frame right there, right? 4 more years, 4.5 more years for Lucid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, LTS, 5 years from last April, right?
Yeah, that stuff will be dead too.
Fair enough.
I actually like Lucid. So, Dapper was the thorn in my side. I got here after it was released, and I still had to do so many stupid things for Dapper.
you've got 8 more months for Dapper.
Are there software center UI implications?
Yeah, we've discussed some other stuff.
Okay.
Having server UI at all for software center to start with. So.
Yeah, like you said, that may be the main work is somehow creating some API that a command line tool can query if I'm a server user. You don't even necessarily want that in Software Center per se, you know,
Yeah,
because who's going to have Software Center installed on a server?
Well, we can call that as a server front end.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
It may be a bit heavyweight.
Yeah, it's not. None of this is really a big deal. It's just simple matter of programming, right? Somebody needs to sit down
Prioritizing
and
it,
do
getting
it.
it done, yeah.
Are there impacts that haven't been discussed that we're aware of that this decision would make happen?
Like you said, a server could fall over, potentially, because we haven't seen this much bandwidth on our
Yeah.
PPA servers before. Like I said, the dependency issue crops up where you've got to copy packages into other PPAs, like Java. But other than that, now I don't see any real technical implications for the user. They're not really going to notice any difference. It's going to show up under a different tab in Software Center. That's all they're going to have.
Well, some may notice that archive.com and oracle.com no longer.
Well, you know what I mean, though, but from a usability standpoint,
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
really care.
Are there bandwidth concerns? Is partner title?
I've talked to Julian about it before. I've talked to him about it before. Not really. Nah, everybody seems to say it was okay.
Can I have a work item at the end of this list to remove messages of partner from the installer?
Good idea.
Just as a reminder. So
Good idea.
So for Netty and onwards. Right.
Put work items on this list.
There aren't any right now. What's the Gobby list?
I think Randy's been
Other-
typing away over there.
that one,
There's that cake.
Oh, right in the middle.
Dash N, dash five.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, where is it on the screen? Oh, yeah.
The hand of Julian.
Oh, one thing I forgot to bring up, kind of related, kind of not. The license issue I keep talking to you about where vendors won't be able to specify their license.
Yeah.
With this new mechanism, is there any way we could have that as part of the console where they can say, I'm GPL2, and it actually show up in the client as GPL2?
It's trivial.
Oddly enough, a very common complaint, you know, because Open Browser and Alfresco are like, why am I showing up as proprietary license when I'm GPL? You know,
Right.
so
So the moment that everything shows up.
the catch-all, yeah, I don't, proprietary, it might not be it, I forget what it is in Maverick, but it's like unknown license or something like that.
Unknown
They're not real happy
license.
about it.
Can you maybe offline talk a little bit about that?
About what?
What's going on there on the licensing? And the other thing is certain partner packages want to have click-through licensing. They're just going to be able to provide that.
Yes, easier now because it's part of the purchase mechanism. We actually have, you can link to any document and do that, so I can make that easier. Before we just had to do it with a DevConf thing, so.
Question for Michael. When we start doing this in the Software Center, how important is it to have the change logs appearing?
Not very important. I mean, architectural.com does not have changelog support.
Okay.
So
Because I know you put the support in the Software Center client to show them, didn't you? We just need to throw them in the right place in the
exactly, and it's, you know, it should be relatively straightforward on your side. I mean, as far as I know, William did
there
some
was
work
a
on it.
problem with the way it was done, actually. But I can talk to you about that offline.
Sure. I mean, I can adapt the client in any way you want. I mean, if you need a different layout.
That's good, I like that.
I got a question for you now.
Okay.
The one thing Randy asked about regressions, one thing I am worried about is bug handling. Because right now, there's no bug handling for paid apps at all. Everybody just follows
So you want
the software center.
Yeah.
You want to buy the PPAs, basically.
Well,
I know that's quite an ask, but
It's something a lot of people have been asking for. And
Could we add a project for them
Yeah.
perhaps and have bugs against that project?
but how do we get that down to software center? I guess add another piece of data, right? Because
well,
they need to be able to click. In my opinion, I buy an app, I download it, it sucks. In my opinion, it doesn't work right. I want to go back to that page and click. It doesn't work. You know, it's common user behavior.
Well, there's another section about ratings, I think, as well, which would also fix
Yeah.
this as well.
that will address the problem nicely. I mean, if it's really bad.
Yeah, but they still want to talk to somebody. You know, they bought it, it sucks, I want to yell. I mean, that's what a customer wants to do. Right now, wherever they go to launchpad.net and you
Well, I
know,
think
they
You
get
should have
software
a
center.
homepage field, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you should just embed a
You
homepage
should have a page
field.
field that links to a project page in Launchpad, which has
Okay.
bugs set up, and then it can file the bug there.
That will work.
And I think this should be a requirement. I mean, for both for partner commercial and for extras application.
I agree. And the other question is, again, directly to you, is currently only LOSAs have access to this console for pushing applications.
And that is going to stay.
Is that going to
That is-
stay?
I would be really surprised if
I don't understand why that's not
pushing
in our control.
applications, where?
So anytime we go to push a new application, a paid application, I have to go get a LOSA to enter the information because I don't have
Okay.
access to the console.
Right.
I don't know.
This is because it's.
I mean, I don't know, I asked Stephen about it, and he's like, I don't know why you don't have access either, so go ask somebody else.
I would be surprised if they would give up control on this because I mean it's a very powerful mechanism. You can.
But
push.
why is it under LOSA control? It's not really,
It's a
It's a
sysadmin.
very powerful mechanism. You can push applications to millions of users this way. You know, they want to have an
I
additional.
agree that it's,
person
but
looking at it.
we're adding
There's
more and more bullshit, like we always do. along the way.
There's a general trend in canonical sysadmin in general to reducing and not increasing the amount of console access that any of the sysadmins has, essentially to limit our exposure in case of things like, you know, SSH key compromise, so that the number of people who can destroy Canonical's infrastructure by accident if their SSH key is compromised is as low as possible. So the cases where, for example, Ubuntu archive admins have access to the archive master machine, the long-term plan is for that to be replaced by API access as well. Rather than asking for direct console access, I think it's much more likely to achieve results to ask for limited API.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care how it gets done. I mean, I'm agnostic to how it's handled.
Commenting on this, it seems like the scope of things it's being pushed to the LOSAs could perhaps be narrowed where some of the things like what's the price, what's the description, those don't seem like high-risk items,
Sure.
where other people could help do that and then keep the control of the dangerous things.
Yeah, because
like
we're gonna have to do that
Sure,
anyway with the
as I
new.
say, that's API access.
Okay.
I'm just saying that asking for console access
Is
is
the
unlikely
wrong
to be
place.
productive.
I mean, yeah.
Fair enough.
I very much agree. I mean, I think it should be, you know, you enter all the information, submit it, and a LOSA like double checks and publish.
That would be great, yeah. That would be fun. I don't mind the gatekeeper. I don't want access that I'm not supposed to have. I just want a way for us to manage that data somehow.
I don't even see that necessarily has to be gate kept. You know, I think it's just a matter of not having. As far as I understand, the only reason it's under LOSA control is that it's a console only.
Yeah, I mean, it's currently it's an admin interface to Django basically, so you can do anything.
So that might be an ISD thing of, you know, this needs to be split up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a matter of splitting it up and. adding maybe just adding additional automatic checks, and at some point it may even be fully under your control. But currently, at least, it's just too powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that definitely needs to be something to be talked about, because the vision everybody has, Steve and NPT, is that the actual publisher will be able to control a lot of this data, pricing. So if their app's not selling well, they can go in and change it to $5 from $10. So we're going to need some form of API anyway, not just for my access, but for actual.
To me, the publish and revoke seem like the real critical, dangerous things. If you're talking about a publisher being able to, I want to change my pricing, I want to change the description, though the ultimate goal would be to try and empower the publishers where it doesn't require intervention from anybody, once they've successfully published a specific version of the application, to be able to modify elements or attributes of that thing.
Right. Yeah, I guess in the long term, there's a lot of questions around this. Like the long-term vision, maybe, a vendor goes in and, adds his application and it's all fine, but, we have to have legal contracts in place for us. We have to have some sort of manual or automatic review of the application. It's not, like in the short term, I think,
right.
You will not get full console access. In the long term, it may change.
Yeah.
But it's a much broader scope.
Good. Anything from your end that's frightening that you can see from a... So
there isn't really anything for me to do. Not happening.
Actually, Maverick else before loosened server does, doesn't it?
Say that again, sorry.
Maverick end of life's before loosened server end of life.
Yes.
That's why. So it's currently says Launchpad must support this till Maverick end of life, but it should say lucid.
LTS, yeah.
That's just the explicit.
Yes.
There we go.
This was my first UDS experience. I walked into the room, and for 5 minutes, everybody's just typing. And then somebody lifts their head and says, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I realized everybody's on IRC. So we're having that moment again.
You tend to get that in our screens as well. You'll have 5 or 6 people in a room. And then all of a sudden, someone will burst out laughing, and it's just because of something that's just happened around.
Yeah. It was foreign to me, so it was new. Are there any other items from what you guys wanted to accomplish today? I didn't hear the sign-off work to Steve K.
There's not much for us to do.
We don't have anything to do.
Yeah, I really don't.
Well, we probably
really
need to.
anything,
We probably just need to fix the PPA download thing. But
Counting.
Yeah, the counting.
The counting. That's it.
Yeah, counting. Okay.
Ensure that
We know
there's
any skills with that.
But yeah, we knew that was broken already.
There's a question over the scalability of the publisher itself, but the amount of
That's a
PPAs.
general issue beyond
That's
this.
a general issue for-
Yeah, the amount of PPAs that this is going to add is nothing compared to what we already have to do.
Now, it will proliferate in that each publisher will have a separate PPA for each version of an application. Is that correct?
Say that again.
Sorry. So I'm thinking it's
each
not
application-
just a PPA per publisher, it's a PPA for each version of a product that I publish. Is that correct? I'm Adobe. I don't just have an Adobe commercial PPA. I have Flash 10.1, Flash 10.2.
Well, only if they want to
It
publish
depends.
multiple versions, which they don't do right now.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That
Aside
example.
from different releases. And I've had the general impression that we didn't really want to, that they'd rather everybody just use the newest version.
Yeah.
Of
So they
not
have a Flash.
Right. Right.
And in fact, it is, so I suspect it probably would be exceptions, but I thought that was kind of the norm.
Yeah, Adobe's a bad example, I apologize. So let me think of a commercial vendor that releases version 1.0, version 2.0, version 3.0.
And sends them as separate.
Would each of those have their own private PPA?
You either need to name the package such that it's got the version number in the name, or you need a separate PPA for each one.
Does the commercial transaction give the end user access to everything in a specific PPA, or can you do package level access?
It does everything in it.
Everything.
It gives access to a PPA. So
Okay.
everything in that PPA.
So if I'm buying something, I think you would have to say, I have to have a unique PPA for each commercial
If
version
you
that I
want
buy
to,
that's
yeah,
different.
if you want to sell it separately,
Okay,
then
Yeah.
yeah.
thank you. Sorry,
Okay. Get these questions out.
clarification.
Is there some way for the vendors to organize that?
Sorry, I didn't catch
Is there
that.
some way for the vendors to organize that? I mean, like my last job, we had the current version, we supported one version, or two versions back. So we have to have three separate PPAs for all of that, right?
Yeah, if you want to sell them independently, then yeah.
Well, it wasn't a matter of selling them, it was a matter of supporting them.
Yeah.
So we've always
No.
sell the current.
If you want to support them, then you only need one PPA, potentially. It depends how you want to arrange packages, because what happens is if you upload a newer version, it will automatically remove the older version.
Right, right.
Yeah. So if you want to keep multiple versions, you either have to name them differently or have a different PPA.
Right, this isn't something that this is a property of apps rather than a property of PPAs. Mainly, I mean the reason why it probably wouldn't be terribly helpful to change PPAs so that they didn't garbage collect over versions is that on the client side, Apple will only give you the newest version of whatever package file it's looking at anyway. So so you really sort of want it to be separate PPAs in order to have in at least some ways in order that you get a different index file coming out.
It also allows support of a specific customer for the specific version they purchased for whatever its life is, which I think is